Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Health Coach Success Virtual Masterclass. My co-host Laura and I worked hard to pull together this special online event just for you. It's a 5-day mini course in which we interview the best and brightest health coach and marketing experts on the planet to try to understand how they've become such great coaches and entrepreneurs. Included in the 20-plus expert interviews are some names you might recognize. Primal Health Coach Institute founder Mark Sisson, celebrity nutrition expert and New York Times bestselling author JR Burgess, author, cardiologist, and staunch health coach advocate Dr. William Davis, Michelle Liotta of Health Coach Power Community, Michelle Norris, CEO of Paleo FX and ID Life Nutrition, and many, many more. The Health Coach Success Virtual Masterclass is now available and totally free for a limited time. Check it out at primalhealthcoach.com/success. Today's guest on Health Coach Radio is JR Burgess of Healthovators, which supports functional medicine practitioners and integrative health clinicians in building a proven new model of healthcare that's outcome-driven, affordable, sustainable, profitable, and desperately needed to help patients restore and regenerate health. It's a fascinating and exciting business story that empowers healthcare professionals, including health coaches, to fully support patients and clients into improved health, while also empowering the patients and clients themselves to reach for health, happiness, and vitality. The other great part of this conversation is that JR shares so many examples of motivational interviewing techniques that get to the heart of what health coaching clients really want and what they're willing to do to get it. You can find the show notes for this episode and all of our previous episodes at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. Don't forget to take a picture of your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. We'll tag you back. And make sure to tag JR too. You can find him at burgess.jr and at Healthovators. This is potentially one of our most info-packed interviews, especially if you're a health coach looking to get into a collaborative relationship with a team of allied health practitioners. So get set to take some serious notes. Here we go with JR Burgess.
All right. Good morning, JR Burgess. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura, for having me on. Erin, I appreciate the opportunity to share the gift of health with so many.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to talk to you because specifically of what you do and how we think this is going to be uniquely relevant to our audience, health coaches, health, wellness, fitness entrepreneurs. So rather than me telling your story, I would love for you to tell your story. What is the origin story of JR? How you came to be where you are today and what Healthovators is all about. But, the backstory is important to us. People like to hear kind of where you came from.
Thank you. It happened for me at a very young age. I was in the 5th grade and I had a crush on a classmate that was sitting right next to me. And unfortunately, the teacher didn't like my mom very much. They grew up and they weren't too close growing up. And she stood me up on a desktop. And I had bigger ears as a kid, and she flicked my ears and said I lacked cartilage. And I was mortified, but at the same time, my greatest gift came from it is I didn't want to go back to school. So my parents had plastic surgery, fixed my ears. I was traumatized, and I didn't want to go back to school, but I fell in love with sports. That would allow my pain to go away. So I do that all day, all weekend. And as soon as I got back into the school routine is I would see a lot of kids would tease other kids, and I could sense or feel people's pain immediately. I didn't fully know my gift till years later, but I became very, very empathic. So from a young age, I was always wanting to help anybody that was depressed or sad and try to just be a person of value to them by just really kind of communicating and seeing it through because I had been there myself. So that started my lifelong journey into sports, and that was it until I found drugs and alcohol. And that really basically numbed any pain that I was feeling. And I would go from this now shy and awkward kid with very low self-image and esteem to the life of the party, and barely graduated high school, wouldn't have graduated high school if it wasn't for sports. And I went and built water towers, and I learned what hard work was really fast. And I was missing college sports, though. My friends that I played with were playing, so I went back to college and found out that when teachers weren't giving me a hard time, or I could choose my own path, that I actually thrived in it and got academic All-American in the sport of baseball. And then finished undergrad and was a financial advisor. And then 9/11 happened. So went back to water towers and then went to grad school. And rugby was actually the greatest gift in the world, because I became a bottler and I would hold it all in. And then when I'd play a game of rugby, I would just be able to release and be a different human being. And then I tore my Achilles tendon and I was going to do a GA. And I had an opportunity with one of my rugby buddies to go to the gym and do sales. So I had a practicum, fell in love with it, and did 1 year of sales, and then became a personal trainer while going through grad school. And I fell in love with it. The show The Biggest Loser came out, and when the doctor would look them in the eyes and say, "Do you know you're at risk of stroke, heart attack, and disease?" and the patients would cry. And I said, "Oh my goodness, that's it." I understood that psychology played a role, that nutrition was big in getting results, but that doctor authority really, really mattered. And that's where I said, that's an option. And I beat myself up. At that time, I'd already had 5 knee surgeries. So I had a client that had a torn rotator cuff and he was diabetic. And he said, "JR, I went and had this prolotherapy and PRP stuff." I didn't know what that was at the time. And I'd already had numerous surgeries. I would play on the weekends, limp all week long. So he said, "Why don't you go see this Dr. Baumgartner fella?" And I went and saw him. He was an orthopedic and a family practice doctor. And he said, "JR, because you exercise and eat healthy, you're probably going to get a better outcome. But I'd like to look at your hormones, your labs, your vitamin D, and see if we can optimize you before we do these regenerative injections." And 3 months later, I was back to playing at full strength. And I was like, wow, I'm sold. And he said, "JR, I see so many patients from my family practice side. They come in, they're diabetic or high blood pressure or depressed, and they just have a medication. I see so many patients with degenerative disc disease or body degeneration. And if I give them a cortisone, I'm just covering it up. Would you be interested in joining me and being a concierge to my patients and help them get better?" So that was a little over 12 years ago where my journey started. I started in a 80 square foot office, and life really started to open up from there.
All right. Wow. Dang. So what is it that you do now?
Yeah. So I started in a small little practice. We went from 1,000 square feet to 6,000. We built one of the largest integrated centers in the entire country, a 28,000 square foot model that was sports and orthopedic, medical fitness, and functional medicine. So we were seeing amazing outcomes. One that came to mind is a lady named Susan came. We started advertising medically supervised weight loss. And she came in, she was on 17 different medications, had 7 joint replacements. Her pain management doctor called her a drug chaser. Her surgeon said there was nothing else that she could do. And she says, "JR, I'm desperate. You think you could help me?" And I said, "I don't know that I'm equipped to start with you right away. Let's get you over to Dr. Baumgartner." He did regenerative injections. We got her over to the functional medicine department, optimized her labs. And then I passed her to had physical therapies. We started corrective exercises, but then passed her to our nutritionist that helped her with some basic nutrition things. 3 months later, she was down 50 pounds off all but 2 of her medications, had her zest, her vitality back. And we recognized that was our aha moment. Just like me, if people would come in, restore their life with lifestyle related activities, we could optimize their labs, we could truly regenerate the body without drugs or surgery. So we were like, we got to share this model with the world. So after we moved into our 28,000 square foot center, we started licensing our medical fitness / health coaching model all around the world. So we had it hit about 50 locations. We had a 100 license deal in China. We were doing our programs in Taiwan. And then what I recognized at that standpoint is they weren't having the same success as we were. So I paused for a minute and I said, these doctors have never been trained on leadership, on how to run a business, how to be an entrepreneur. So I pivoted, strongly still believe that medical fitness and health coaching is the answer to healthcare. We feel that any medicine model that doesn't have lifestyle and nutrition and exercise as the foundation is not healthcare, it's managed care. So we pivoted and started a doctor mastermind that would teach doctors how to make their business successful. And then our fourth pillar in our structure was, now let's add the health coach or the fitness professionals. Now that you have a good operating business, a clear message, you have metrics, you have numbers, we can communicate, we can actually integrate these services. And that's how we position and started having much greater success with our doctor groups. And today, we've helped over 300 clinics worldwide add lifestyle, functional medicine clinics, regenerative clinics, all tying the lifestyle, health coaching, and nutrition as the foundation to make any of these practices really number one at providing world-leading outcomes. Everything centers around, and what's centered around us, why we started seeing celebrities, athletes, is we have to be known for the best outcomes. And then it's easy to market and sell, because a lot of health professionals have these bleeding hearts, and if insurance doesn't cover it, it becomes awkward. And we had to really learn how to get all that out of the way, teach the doctors how to influence, sell without selling, so they truly could help restore healthcare worldwide.
Oh, well, that's something we should definitely dive into.
Yep.
Because like you think about the story of Susan, who was at her wit's end. She was at rock bottom. And we've all had those clients where they're kind of like, take my money. I please just help me. But that's not everybody, to your point. So why don't we just start there? Let's talk about, maybe it seems like a weird place to start, but I think for the coaches and the health professionals listening, that would be a great place to start, is how do we have these conversations with clients, and what have you taught the doctors and the professionals in your clinics in terms of having these conversations with clients who now have to pay for this stuff out of pocket?
Well, this could definitely be an hour conversation in its own. I actually teach 2-day workshops on this matter, but it starts with basically motivational interviewing. So we ask questions on our intake form that really center around what people are looking for. So let's just say that, Ben, to Susan's case, it's like an awareness factor is, are you in pain? Yes. Well, what is it impacting in your life? Things that are proving the gap. Are you looking for alternatives to drugs and surgery? The answer is most of these patients came as a last resort. So they haven't had health for a long time. So they say yes. So if we're an insurance model and they say, yes, I'm looking to alternatives to drugs and surgery, and they've already done that with all their insurance, now it gives the practitioners, the health coaches, or the doctors permission to say, great, I see you've tried the Suparts, the cortisones, these medications. Now, if you're looking for alternatives, here are the 3 or 4 things that offer this. So to each section of the practice which they incorporate, there's a lot of psychology based on motivational interviewing. And so that's the first one. We're asking for permission based on what they want, because your patients are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They're looking for a specialist. They're looking for somebody who cares, that has organized knowledge and proven outcomes. So if we create what they call a unique branded protocol that makes us a one of a kind or first of a kind, so they know that there's a system, because knowledge in your head is dead. So somebody may think they're an expert, but if they don't have a proven formula of structured success, it doesn't relay confidence to the patient, to the consumer, that you've been able to have these consistent, repeatable outcomes. So that's a big part of it, is the patient journey, the intake, the unique branded protocol. But we like to handle objections through our stories. So if you heard of Susan's story, we know there's 4 main objectives to everybody getting into cash pay services. The first one is, my doctor said there's no evidence in this functional medicine or regenerative medicine, something right there. So I'll give you the example and come back to that in a minute. The top one is always money. The third one is time. And the fourth one is procrastination. So let me go back to Susan's story. So when Susan was seeing her, if I didn't just give you the trunicative version, if I was doing this in a presentation with a patient, it would be more of, Susan asked her surgeon if there was anything else that he could do. And she asked about regen medicine because she heard it. And the doctor said there was no evidence for that. So basically, Susan luckily saw our ad, came for weight loss, not for the prime condition, because she knew she had to do something different. And then she was able to see that we were able to provide the research, that there was level 1 studies, that all these other patients that had been thought that they had no answer have had consistent, repeatable outcomes with our 3-step system. So meaning, yes, if you go to a surgeon and they just put PRP in there but didn't address your health, bad blood goes everywhere. That's why we've got to get you with one of our fitness or health coaches to make sure your lifestyle is on point, that your blood is healthy, your cell health is healthy before you do these injections. So most doctors, if they try to give you an injection, it doesn't fix the whole problem, where our model addresses these with these 2 components. So basically, we're handling the objections through the story, because if I am handling the objections and explaining that to a person, I have means to gain in their mind, so I'm selling. But if I'm able to handle those objections through the story, that's another example. So I'll give you another example on finance one. So Doug had came to us for diabetes and was essentially year after year, he would go lose 10 pounds and then be right back in the same boat. And he came to us and found out our program cost $3,000. So he was all excited about what we offer till he found out it's $3,000. And I asked him a question. Doug, do you mind me asking what your deductible is? Well, it's $3,000. So I'm guessing, since you've been dealing with this the last 10 years, you've hit your deductible every single year. Well, yeah. So meaning you are still paying $3,000 for your health care out of your pocket every single year, and you're still sitting in front of me today. So mind me asking, are you going to try the same things that you've done, or are you looking for something that could actually restore or regenerate your health and get you off medications for good? Well, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So now, if, again, showing the testimonials and other stories just like Doug's situation show that we were able to get a result, I'm able to handle that financial objection by saying, you're already spending that just because you're paying cash. Now, most of our clients on our $1,000, and that's one of our low barrier programs, have completely resolved their dependency for drugs, are 20 to 50 pounds lighter, have got their zest, their vitality back. So I'm always showing social examples, always handling the objection by opening up their mind to a different way of viewing it and thinking of it, versus selling at any time. And then there's always the next level sales tactics. So what are you missing out by not being at health? What are you, not really able to do anymore? What's the cost of not figuring this out? So if people are in pain, it's the cost of not doing the things that they love, not able to produce the income. So depending on what that person's situation is, you have to listen really closely to their words and be able to provide the words on the other side of an alternative view.
So I love all that. So I came from a background in sales. I spent well over 20 years there, and took a million different sales training programs. But the one that I heard you use the term selling without selling, right? And I 100% agree with you that intake form, right? That form and questionnaire where you're asking clients at the end of the day, what do they really want, is far more impactful than just finding out what their problems are, right? And really asking them what their hopes and dreams are, because that's what you really kind of need to tack to. And something that I talk with my clients about too, when it comes to sort of the money equation, absolutely being able to frame this and put it in context when people realize they're already spending this money just in different places and in smaller chunks along the way, so they don't realize it. But when faced with the question, like, what's really the alternative? Right? So if you're afraid to go this direction, what's the alternative? And inevitably, the alternative isn't good.
Yeah.
Right?
Every human or system is perfectly designed for the results that it produces. So just to your point right there, if we do nothing different, we can assume nothing different is going to happen. And you're spot on. We always try to figure out if people are driven externally or internally on that first question. So usually people say, my doctor told me I need to get off this blood pressure medication, or I want to get ready for this cruise. And that's great. We know people are externally motivated that way. So we want to do anything we can to gain some leverage in our communication. So finding out what they really want. and I recite and say their words. So here I can feel you don't like how you look in the mirror. It's affecting your sex life, how you show up in many different areas. What would you be willing to exchange of less value right now, such as mind me asking if you eat out right now? Are you smoking? Are you drinking alcohol? So I will go through that whole intake of what they're spending extracurricular, and I say, do you mind me asking if you're willing to exchange some of these items for less value right now so you can get back to confident in the bedroom, feeling really good about yourself, and having the love life that you once had before you had put on this 20, 30 pounds. So I'm reciting their words back to them. And if they tell me no, then in sales psychology, I push away. So I don't know that I'm ready to change any of these habits. That's completely fine, Mrs. Jones. I used to be a director at the Gold's Gym. I would love to get you at least active on a membership. Seems like you're motivated right now to engage in some lifestyle changes. However, we're really focused on results and the fastest outcomes possible, and we're known for getting world-leading outcomes. So if you're not ready to commit to that level, I can't promise you any sort of outcome, but I certainly want to encourage you to continue on the motivation that you're on right now. So let me call, or are you interested in me setting you up so you can at least get a gym? Well, no, I want the best outcome. People always want the best. So the minute you push away, now you're not that sales guy, you're actually a trusted advisor. The minute you push away on time, money, spousal. So in our intake, every one of those objections are handled either through a story or through a true compliance, meaning if they're not going to commit to any of these areas, I'm not going to set up my health coaches or my trainers for a non-compliant client that isn't going to get any outcomes and potentially hurts our reputation by us not being known for the best results producer in our area.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. And I think coaches listening who, even in private practice, we've told our students and graduates, like, don't take on every client, because there's going to be some clients that actually set your business back, and not only your business, but your self-confidence, and you can't afford to take a hit like that. So just circling back, by the way, I love listening to example conversations like this. I think I'm a kinesthetic learner. And when I hear people just role playing how this conversation might go, I get so many nuggets out of it. So I really appreciate that. When a client comes with external validation sources or their external motivators, do you try to move them into internal, or do you meet them where they're at?
100%. So people are selfish human beings. And I don't mean this in a derogatory means. I mean, we do the things that we love, that we enjoy, meaning people, if they want to go on a cruise or have their nails done, even though it's not an essential, will do it. So because they like what they like. So we hear those external words and we work really hard to build non-scale victories in lifestyle as we start training them. So great, we'll get them started with that leverage that's there. But very early into the game, it's like, can I ask how you feel? What is your confidence? What are the things that you're able to do now that you weren't able to do before? How are you modeling or showing your children or your family or your loved ones this newfound education or motivation that you have? What are you doing at home? So we take it, instead of that external goal, to something that, how does this become a part of their lifestyle? Because everybody that ends up going back to square one hasn't found an identity in lifestyle or health. What we hear is there's psychological motivations of stage, and I'm really big on that. So there's the maintenance phase. If they haven't been an athlete or living their life like this is like their identity is stuck to basically, I've grown up this way, or my family does it this way. So that's the one thing I don't like about AA. I gave up alcohol 8 years ago when I really felt it was part of my purpose, even though I loved the partying and drinking growing up, is at AA at the end, the one thing that I didn't want to say is 10 years later is, hey, I'm JR, I'm an alcoholic. That's the one thing that I don't agree with, even though the community and support. So 3 years after somebody's lost their 50 pounds in his lifestyle, I don't want them to say, well, I am unhealthy or obese or have that lifestyle. I want them to find that new identity. So if we are not making it a part of their identity and helping them signify it along the way, their odds of maintaining this and keeping this off are very slim. So a new identity must be created along this journey that goes from all or nothing mentality that most of them have when they haven't lived this, meaning I was doing great and then I went on vacation for a week and now I haven't been back to the gym, or I had one bad weekend and I'm going to give it up. It's just like, hey, faith is important to me. It's not if I missed one weekend of church, I failed and I'm never going again. Or it's not either when I've lost 100 pounds, congrats, I never have to work out again. It's we have to engage a different way of thinking, breaking down basically pattern disrupts. NLP I'm trained in as well, to help them, not to influence them negatively, but to change their identity into this person that is leading their family. Because so many people come in and I ask them, so I understand where their psychology is from the beginning. You've all seen that wheel with faith, family, health, career, social, financial, and they all rank their family like 8, 9, or 10 as their priority. And my question is, I think that's great. I really think my family is one of the most important things in the world. But right now, it seems like you're on medications. You're worried about your health. Can I ask you, so many people come with sad stories, meaning their father died of a heart attack. They have a history of these genetics. How important it is for you to see your kids get married and to lead them and to prevent them with some of the same health concerns you have. Well, very important. So what I try to help them reframe is that health isn't also the greatest wealth. Health is everything. If you don't have your health, your family can't be number 1 or a 10, like you said, because you don't have the energy to play with them. You're not able to produce financially the same way as if you had unlimited energy and focus. You're not able to teach and protect them the safety and security that doesn't have them investing their money, their time, their sicknesses, and doing the things that don't love. So we have to help them reprioritize. And I'm sorry, I can get a little squirrely. I just really like the sales psychology and the motivation of human change.
And that identity is important too.
Hugely important. And I've heard you refer to a couple of sort of coaching strategies and theories in this conversation. And we teach these things in our program, and most health coaching courses do. But I think a lot of coaches, once they really get out there, they tend to move away from that real sort of coach approach and fall back into this expert mode, because they think what their clients are paying them for, or they think their clients think what they're paying for and want is the advice, the expertise, the meal plan, when in reality, what they really need and the value in what you bring is the coaching model and the coaching relationship. And everything you're saying is right in the heart of motivational interviewing. And it's motivational interviewing is something that is useful throughout your entire life, not just as a professional coach. It is also fantastic. And because I view my quote unquote sales conversations or my discovery calls as a coaching conversation, right? Rather than a sales conversation. It takes the pressure off. So I would love it if you would sort of break down sort of this motivational interviewing concept and the flow of it and where it kind of fits in all of this and how it drives some of your, I guess your protocols and your strategies.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. Psychology is a big component of medicine. So in human behavior. So you have to just understand is the expert opinion is now dead. Like you said, I'm not saying that the doctor's expert opinion doesn't have authority or leverage. That's why I like pairing health coaches and trainers with doctors, because the minute that doctor says it, it's if that doctor told you to drink motor oil, you'd probably consider it. That's just how we've, grown up in society of the doctor's always right. But at the same time, the malpractice is the third leading cause of death in the United States. So meaning medicine interaction in healthcare, it's 5 minutes. It's symptom management. Here's your diabetes. Here's your pill. They don't have time. That's why we think health coaches are so critical to the future of healthcare. We're now doing group programs for diabetes prevention. It's billable through insurance, even cash. There's so many different alternatives of the care, but it starts with the psychology of motivation. So meaning people don't like to be told to do, but if we're looking at compliance, we need them to agree to it. So they've all been told, eat less, do more, exercise each day. I call it infobesity that I learned from Sam Horn. Is infobesity does nothing to anybody. If they can't contextually see themselves in it, if they can't psychologically make their own decision and come with some self-responsibility to their treatment plan, it's like, doctor, I have diabetes, fix me. That's why we're in this position.
Right.
It means they need to be compliant. They need to take self-responsibility. They need to own their journey, not shame them. This isn't what I'm talking about. That's why motivational interviewing comes in. It's, what do you think is best for you? What challenges do you have? And then, just as you said, this skill shows up in marriage and in life, is active listening, which is a dead thing in healthcare, is basically repeating back those words to them. So with, I completely understand how you feel. So what we found is when you take ownership of one of these areas and can build a habit, they're going to stack up. So, and what we found is once you start walking 30 minutes a day, is that can be the prevention of diabetes alone. Is that something that you feel that you could begin your journey on? So it's, instead of saying, I need you to walk 30 minutes a day, just those simple questions of, yes, I can slide that piece of information in there, but I need their compliance or commitment to it. We've all seen that. People go to the New Year's, and this is where psychology comes into play too. You have to feel how ready a patient is. Are they at rock bottom when they say, just tell me what to do and I'll do everything? Or they're like, I've tried, I've struggled, because they could have all these internal hormones going in their body thinking they're trying to eat better, not just have the willpower because their body's working against them. That's why I like health coaching, integrating with doctors, when we can see what's going on that's causing this. So they don't recognize that their basically lack of willpower, as they would term it, or feeling bad, is something that's happening internally in their body. Maybe it's candida overgrowth or too much adrenaline or cortisol being released into the body and just making it very, very difficult to manage. So at the end of the day, we have to really sit down and try to meet them where they're at, one habit at a time, by that they can be compliant on. If this is somebody that struggled, that we know are the greatest dominoes. So I know some of the greater dominoes that if I can get them started on one of those two habits and show them that this is a journey, then it's going to pay dividends, versus, again, throwing them 6 things. They're going to be uncompliant and just telling them everything to do, and they're going to be back in square one. So it really gets down to, what is the one thing that we absolutely know they can commit to, not to say that they're going to be perfect, and then as compliance goes, continuing to try to stack on there. But it's all got to be participatory, either contextual with somebody that's overcame to show them that it's possible, because a lot of them have been, I've failed so many times, I can't do this. They got that wrong loop going. So we got to break a pattern, get them some small wins, and then keep stacking habits along the way. So I love when somebody comes motivated and we'll do it all at once, but that's, 1 or 2 out of 10, as opposed to the rest of the population that we got to guide a little bit differently, share the journey, share the long times. And there's so many psychological motivations, like getting them to commit instead of one session. That's why I want to get people in a 6-month or a 12-month program minimum, because I know in month number 1 that if I can't, get some changes, if I'm doing sessions, they're not going to stick with it. So it's, I no longer advocate selling sessions or blocks. I like 6-month, 12-month, 18-month programs that are going to really get changes on there. And I don't know if I answered that very good.
Oh yeah. Super good. Well, actually, I'd love for you to speak to this. Actually, kind of how you wrapped up there with this idea around like selling a program rather than this per session model. We're really big advocates of that. But you talked about this at the beginning, this idea of organized protocols, proven outcomes. And there's some, like, what's really interesting is, and I'd love for you to speak to this, because after dealing with so many metabolically unwell people, there's this level of predictability. And even though we do meet every individual where they are, you almost already know what they're going to come up against. You already know how to get them the quick wins that are going to keep them motivated. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's, winning feels good to people. So if they have a coach that makes them feel good, where most of their environment all along the way has, why are you eating healthy? Oh, that's there. It's just the social influences make it very challenging. We know that they're going to have energy vampires, enablers, whatever you want to call them, along their journey. So we prepare them for that. And that's why community is really important to us along the way. So in that intake, who is your support system is one of the first questions. So if they come in as a married couple, is your partner going through this with you? And this is how you sell without selling too. Well, nobody fully supports me. Great. So, he's here today. He supports you. So I should not have the spousal objection when I can relay that. You're so lucky that you have a partner that supports you. We've seen so many people that their partners enable them or saying, why are you going to the gym? Or this is just another diet right there. So if you're one of those, we have to get you in our community. And we have what we call our Breaking Barriers class, which is almost like AA. We teach a subject for 10 to 15 minutes. We go around in a circle and then we give you coaching. So you may say, well, I'm sick of eating the same things. Does eating healthy just have to be like a rabbit eating chicken breast and lettuce? Well, I'm really missing my sweets. Well, have you tried the homemade protein balls or the coconut bites in our cookbook yet? Oh no, I would love that. So you're trying to give them alternative selections. I always try to go 2 instead of saying one or the other, so they can kind of take options. And if they don't select it, I go to the next one and the next one. But that spousal support is so important because if they don't have it, they're going to be challenged. So I will push away. So if he's not, I tell them right away, you're going to probably be challenged if we can't teach you how to communicate, because your husband or your wife is probably going to be concerned if you're losing 10, 20 pounds, that maybe they're going to have insecurities that you may go out on them. They're going to have, issues with the budget or the time that you're spending away from them. So we have to equip you how to have these conversations. We know all the roadblocks you're going to face. So that conversation could be just like when I gave up alcohol. My family knew me as this fun, crazy, outgoing person. So when my grandma died, I was probably about 8 months sober and I don't live at home. And my brother's like, JR, have shots. Why can't you do this? And I said, Bobby, I love you. You've seen me how crazy I get when I drink. I know I'm a lot of fun, but I've almost killed myself doing stupid stunts numerous times. So this is really important to me for my mission and my family is, can you support me in this? So when you are able to have that conversation to the leverage point that you share in commonality, then it can be great. 3 months later, I was back home again. He gave me a hard time again. Bobby, I know you love me. I'm doing a really good job of this. I'm improving in many areas of my life. Is if you're not able to support me, I'm going to have to put boundaries around our time together until you're able to not give me a hard time about this. So that second conversation, we don't want to go fighting and objecting. If what you have to say is important, you need your receiver to receive it. So when you are passive, when you are aggressive, it is unheard. Boundaries and fight walls come up. So learning how to be able to ask questions, just like motivational interviewing, or to be calm in that eye of that hurricane through any conflict, challenging questions, and learning active listening and repeating back is one of the most crucial skills that shows up in marriage, personal change, development. So ultimately, I have to teach people how to communicate to succeed in business and in health and in relationships. End of story. It's all centered around communication.
Yeah, just in case anybody thought it was all diet and exercise that we deal with as coaches.
Right. Well, and active listening is the most underutilized, powerful tool there is. And I think this is human nature. I'd love your thoughts on this, that so many of us listen, but only to the point that we're formulating what we're going to say next, right? We're listening to respond instead of listening to listen and receive. The other thing too is that reframing and repeating what they say so as a coach, rather than question after question after question, making it a dialogue and repeating what they say, reframing and or just summarizing, just so that they know that you heard them. There's something so powerful in that for your clients to feel heard, because in their everyday lives, more often than not, they're just not, right? And active listening is just so huge. And all of these are the underpinnings of motivational interviewing, as well as a lot of the other kind of coaching theories that are out there now that are all very similar. The psychology in this is so important. And I think you're right when it comes to the medical community. They're listening for symptoms. They're listening for whatever it is they can tag to diagnose and move on to the next patient. And I love what you guys are doing and being able to take the medical community and taking the strength of that medical community, what they really bring to the table and do well, and marry it with a personal trainer or a health coach, and marry those two things together, because they really do very different things, but they work so well together. So can you speak to how you're doing that? What does that look like? Because I know there's a ton of people listening that would love to get involved in a relationship like that. Could you, so if you wouldn't mind filling us in.
So it comes down to basically the same thing that I'm teaching the clients is what I'm teaching the trainers and coaches, what I teach the doctors is this coaching aspect. A coach is the greatest thing. I mean, show me an Olympic athlete or a Fortune 500 business that doesn't have a coach. We can't see out inside of our own framework. So meaning I model success. It's simple to see what are the best doing, and they all have a coaches. I wouldn't be where I am without the numerous masterminds and these aha moments, but listening and communication is the number one skill of a coach. So I'll give you a few different examples is I became really good with doctors, clients, but I wasn't great in my marriage. So meaning it became more of a business relationship where I'm just going. And all I learned, what I already knew about client coaching and behavior, I wasn't doing at home. So I was a problem solver in my marriage. I just wanted to solve like I do all the time because that's my role. But that's not what a marriage is. It's feeling. Sometimes my wife just wants to vent. Females sometimes, guys are known a little bit masculinity for solving problems. Females are a little bit more feelings and emotional. And it's right back to what you said, Laura. All I had to do is repeat her words and it changed my marriage. So you know, my wife could say, I'm so frustrated, the kids are crazy. And I said, well, he's not crazy, he's this, there. I would try to solve it instead of saying, so I hear you're frustrated that you had a tough day, that my son, you know, is acting up when I'm not home. Yes. And I was like, oh my goodness, it took therapy to learn how to just simply say back her own words. But it changed our marriage and relationship by simply just hearing all the way versus arguing, hearing all through. And I would give her the place to let it all out. So 3 or 4 emotions. So I hear you're angry when I just stay on my phone and I don't jump in to help you when I'm on, when you're disciplining. Yes. So that's what when I knew it all along. It just took me to really hear her out and listen. So that's one side in your marriages. And that's the same thing in the exam rooms, just like those questions. So I hear you're looking for alternatives to drugs and surgery. They just said it in the intake. Repeat back their words. Now you're that listener. So now I want to show you in 2 things. 1 in handling objections and 2 in sales follow-up if you guys are coaches, because we don't always close, especially if you're not a great closer or somebody that has great skill in that. Then it's all about the follow-up game that shows that you listen better than everybody else. So hang tight for these. When you get an objection one-on-one, it's always these 3 words. I completely understand how you feel. So the formula is feel, felt, found. A lot of our clients felt a little sticker shock at the price when that they seen this. But what we found is when we could exchange some of these things that were non-essential for 3 to 6 months, we could completely have this cost nothing to them additionally than what they're paying right now. And they could get the life that they wanted back, and they could still have a little bit of that stuff too. So, so I don't have to give it all up, and it's just 3 to 6 months and all this other stuff. So their objection is used to holding on to that objection. They just want to be sold. But when you can say, completely stand how you feel, not just, oh, not there, or get defensive at all. It's with complete empathy, complete understanding, because people do have budgets, but they haven't found that they could replace this, or how to cook healthy, or the habits that they need to, or how to shop on a budget. That's our job, to teach them along the way, but they don't know what they don't know yet. So we have to be able to handle that calmly and collectively. So I always say the number one objection people most get is, I need to think about it. And I don't think that's an objection. If I just spent an hour giving my heart, listening intently, it's, I completely understand how you feel. A lot of our clients felt that this was a lot of information. What we found is that there's only 1 or 2 things that hold people back. Mind me asking a little bit more clearly, what is it specifically that you need to think about? So that's not an objection, but it's calmly asking is, I need to know, because that's the objective. That's what's standing in their way. If I don't get that out of the way, I'm screwed. It's like, I can never help this person get the life that they want. So I always say handle 2 to be true. Then if it goes from cost, and there's so many ways to handle cost, and I can go down to what is your budget or how to, and that's why I always like to find the money before I ever present price. So they are typically spending $300 to $500 a month on extracurricular things that they don't need. So I always say, before I move on out of the price intake and the intake, I'm saying, so good news is we have about $500 a month right here that we could exchange. Some of our clients come in here, they don't have much of a budget. So I'm always going to present you an offer that doesn't cost you $1 more than what you're spending today, so you can get back to confident in the bedroom and this not cost you and your family anything. However, some of our clients do have a budget in mind and want the ultimate program for the fastest and quickest results. At the end of this presentation, I'll share what that is if you had a budget in mind when you were coming here today. So I very rarely get the price objection because I can find them the money before I do it and then present it. And I can always lend back because I don't go forward with that question or into the intake if they say I'm not willing to exchange, because if they say no, I push away right there. So if I continue to keep going, I've already got them to agree to not spending $1 more than they're spending today. So that's on the short end. And on the last end, let's just say they don't close, right? Is all these areas in that intake, I follow up one day later and I have all this. And I break it down. I learned this in Dan Sullivan's mastermind. It's what they call the 4C close. I take all their challenges, opportunities, strengths in that intake. So it sounds like your strengths are that you're disciplined, you're a mom that fights for your children, that you're committed to, you know, your family as being the priority number one. So what your opportunities are is that we've presented this program to not cost you $1 more than what you were already spending in your extracurricular. That your opportunity is you had your own home gym, that you had a background in exercise, you just forgot out of this. So maybe you just needed a coach one day a week instead of coming to the gym several days a week. And what your challenges were is that you haven't had the time, and that you've also had a spouse that, you know, is working and you didn't know how to get from the home. So as I've thought about this, I've designed a program. So now it's like, now the follow-up, I've designed a program that leverages your strengths, that looks at your opportunities, and presented, now that I've had more time to think about it, a program that blank, blank, and blank handles all those things. And I know you're going home to think about it. I'd love to help you. So we've had over 50% of people that leave, not selling, or that day, that finally take our offer after. You've all heard the story of, you don't help them today, they're gone for good. And that is a good majority of it. But over 50% that do leave, even though our team averaged 80% closes, we would get half those people back with that simple follow-up script.
Cool.
I love that.
So yeah, you've like mentioned this whole thing, like I love how you say you found the money before mentioning the price. And so this conversation around what can you exchange, and you gave an example earlier about the guy who has a $3,000 deductible, and perfect, you know, $300,000 deductible, that's how much your program costs. That's a really nice tidy example. But let's say, like for a health coach like maybe myself or somebody like me who doesn't work in this really sort of functional medicine realm, is just kind of working with like fat loss clients, we're not really talking about deductibles. Plus where I live, healthcare is free, so there's nothing to leverage. But like what other kinds of things? Like I've always heard this. I work at a gym, and one of the exchange tactics is always used in the gym setting for sales as well. How much do you spend at Starbucks every day? That kind of thing, right? Yeah. But like, you know, it comes out in the wash. It's the same price. You have one less, you know, latte a week, and you've paid for your gym membership. Like what other kinds of exchange examples? Just a couple, one or two, can you give us?
I call them essentials and non-essentials. So, you know, you've identified, you've came here, and this is where I can do tie downs sometimes, that you're needing to make your health a priority. So if you mind, I try to find money so this costs you nothing extra than what you're doing today. You mind me asking, and again, Starbucks does come into this equation, how many times a week that you eat out? I know eating is essential, but is eating out essential for you? So, on average, 3 times a week. Okay, is that just you or your whole family? Well, my family 1 day a week, and me 3 days a week. So that on average, when you go with a family, let's just say you're a family of 6. Okay, that's probably $100. When you go out on your own, $15. Is that fair? Yes. So 15 times 3 plus the $100, or so in that week is $45. So 145 times 4 is nearly $600. Mind me asking if you drink alcohol? Yes. Okay, well, I just have a bottle of wine tonight. Mind me asking on average what your favorite wine costs? Well, my favorite one's like $40, but I only do that once a week, and my other one is $15. Okay, 5 nights a week, well, all 7. Okay, wonderful. Can I ask about any things over the next 6 months? Because that's one of our baseline programs is 6 months. Any other non-essentials like, car rent, or I mean, not car, those are essential. Nails, hair, coloring, any of these others that we could push off for 6 months so you can get the health that you want and get off. And I always recite their words as I go through this. So you can get off that medication and get back in the bedroom confidently. So I find that, and on average, there's usually $500 to $1,000 of non-essentials. And that's where I say, that's great. I'm going to work really hard to find. So are you willing to exchange some of these things that are non-essential so you can get your health priority back up the essential for a period of a minimum of 6 months? And if they say no, I will push away at that point and again, bring in something that doesn't have, for compliance or reasons. You all know if they're drinking alcohol and they want life-changing results, that it's just not going to happen very well. So again, I'm not saying you can't help them healthy, and some do. Some are just like, JR, no, I want to work with you guys, are good coach. I've been going the wrong way in maintaining, and I can have that conversation, but I always center it around results and their outcome first. But then I say, hey, some people, that's why I like a 12-month or a year program. Change is hard. If it were easy, everybody would do it. It is pretty simple, but it is, a challenge. So I definitely spend time here and I really work through this, but it's the truth of the matter to outcomes. So if you ignore these conversations and they're doing it every day, you're going to not be known for results. I'm really serious about results and patient selection of getting the right ideal fits. But what do? I send them to their best next step. If not, I give them my books. I give them free access to our university, and I start seeding the change. Our email list has brought people in 3 years, 10 years down the road. And so I don't shame them. I start saying, great, let me just start educating you. Some of these things that you can do, but I don't want, our program is top dollar in this community because we're the best results. So I don't want you to invest into this until you're ready, but I do believe I have a lot of things that can help you for free until you get ready to work with a next level coach.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's a great sort of thing to add into your to the sales process is like, what's the funnel I'm going to move this person into when they say no, that's maybe over time going to turn them into a yes.
Oh yeah. This is where because we talk about sort of content marketing as a way to sort of build trust, add value to clients, but all this content marketing that you've built can go into an entire library or just value add for folks that want to just continue to stay engaged, but just might not be ready to pull the trigger yet. A downsell is what I would call it, right? Is key to just keep people engaged and show that they know you care, but it's a way to keep them engaged with you because, I came from a finance background too, spent 20 years there, and I'm very comfortable having that kind of conversation. Well, would it be helpful if is my favorite phrase. Would it be helpful if I worked with you to help you figure out if you can find the money, essentials versus non-essentials? But I came from that background. So for health coaches that maybe are English teachers or they're stay-at-home, they don't have any kind of background in anything like this. I would love for you to speak to how they can sort of work that into a conversation a little bit. And then the other thing I'd like to touch on too is, so your organization it sounds like it's a combination of like these allied providers. You've got the doctor, you've got the health coach, you've got the fitness person or what have you. If I'm a solo practitioner as a health coach and I'm looking to integrate something like this, how does that all really work? Yep. How do I wear all these hats when that's just, anyway, sorry.
Absolutely. No, I missed that question the last time. So I will wrap with that but to your first point, we have always said content is critical to build the know, like, and trust. And your community needs to see you, especially now, more important than ever, is you have to be front and center providing value. And when you can contextually learn how to do that through story, through personal testimony, through your client successes, and there's formulas to that. But you have to, anytime you do a content, why not put it in your autoresponders? There's free courses out there and things that you could do. You could have a Google document with your top 10 videos if you're just starting, and when somebody comes in, give them your top 10 things. You know, you're all going to talk about sleep, hydration, nutrition, exercise. Give your basic on each one of those and put them in your mini course. All these clinics or gyms that I've started with, we build them what we call your university. So that is their lead gen. When they're going out in the community trying to build lunch and learns and physician relationships, we're giving that value away for free. The meal plans are in there, they're stocked. You already have it. Why not give that away? It becomes a goodwill. Anybody could go onto any website in the world and get information. It doesn't sell. They buy the people and the person and the coach who follows up, who cares, and who, you know, really has a compassion and a proven track record of results. That's ultimately what matters. So I think everybody needs a library, whether it's on a Google Doc with links or, again, creating a membership site. There's some very, very cheap ones, and there's some high-level ones depending on what you're at to start putting your content. And, again, email sequences and capturing email and building your list, the most important. But you have to do it with a giving hand by giving value first, nothing in advance. So it's not like at the end of an email or a video, it said, if you like this, keep following along. Or if you want to book a discovery call, I'd be happy to do that if you're interested and motivated right now. So you can ask for those small, subtle sells repeatedly as long as you're providing value. But to answer your big question, where it's about integration, how do I begin the integration? I always believe that there's 4 ways to begin integration. The first one is the easiest, if you're a solopreneur, is create win-win opportunities. 90% of these doctor practices don't have somebody helping them get better outcomes. So you could basically do is, hey, I would do a rev share if you give me any of your clients or send them to you, because they're your patients, and we can form a contractor, and each state's a little bit different. So this is where it's tricky given this explanation in a short order, because different states have different kickback laws and compliance and issues, but there are different loopholes to do rev shares as an independent contractor for that clinic. So if you're an independent contractor, hey, anybody that's lifestyle you want to do in there, I can white label my independent and be a part of Rejuve Medical or anybody else, even though I have my own business, and be the care provider. So maybe that's a 50-50 split, 70-30, 60-40, anything like that, where now you're giving that doctor immediate revenue by helping facilitate the lifestyle change. But you must know their model of care. You must know how to speak their language, because if you don't know what functional medicine is and they're a functional medicine coach, it's not going to happen. The allopathic model, but every one of these functional regenerative doctors, they all know the lifestyle component is critical to their outcomes. So that's why I'm a board member of numerous different fitness associations, and I go speak. I look for the next level health coaches and trainers that I can pair with these doctors. In 1, an independent relationship. 2, rent space for them. Is most of these clinics, especially now the brick and mortar ones, are hurting that are independent, not part of a system. So go, even if you don't have a physical space and you're about to become a health coach, go rent space for them and do a rev share. They love it. Those buildings aren't split all weekend. So you could go say, instead of saying $1,000 a month rent that you may don't have right now, is I'll give you 20% of all the business that I create out of here. Now you're marketing that you're at a Rejuve Medical Clinic. You're able to say who you are. You're a part of these. And now you've just leveraged your authority because you're working independently inside of a clinic. And now you get good at going interviewing the doctors, leverage them in good light. And then it's a game changer. So that's opportunity, is rent cheap space and give them a rev share of rent instead of a fixed rent amount. Number 3 is they're all desperate for employees. So maybe you're just beginning, just like me when I start. I didn't tell the whole story in the beginning. We went to the 100 license and had 60 plus people in our masterminds, and I wasn't being a great leader. I was starting to lose my own health. I was working 100-hour work weeks for 10 years. So I sold out of my shares in our clinic and our masterminds, and I went independent to where I'm doing the same thing, but I'm just primarily, instead of managing 100 people and owning 3 businesses, I now just help health coaches and doctors integrate cash services. So that's where, these doctors, if you go in and want to be employed by them, are looking for this. But if you go asking for this big salary, it's hard to do that. So if you go and say, hey, I'm willing to have a lower base in a 50-50 rev share and all these, because the doctors like to own their IP, their brand, and their name. So if you leverage yourself as them, you could be an employee either. Again, I feel I have the skills that I could walk into any state in the country and go find a job in these clinics, because I just know how to do it. I know how to market and grow it. So that's where, when I'm going speaking, I'm looking for the trainers that know how to network, market, and sell. And those are the ones that I pair as the employees to go in those clinics, because they pay for themselves. If you're just a trainer that can only, or a coach that can only just coach and deliver the service, then you're going to cost that clinic money. It would be better to be independent and just have a rev share, versus if you got the skills to sell there, heck, I would love to, if you're really good at it and you want to join a team like that, I would be interested to pair you with the numerous doctors that are looking to add the team members that can, again, sell their services. All these cash clinics that I work for, it's a whole game changer when they have somebody that can ethically sell, follow up, not only their health coaching packages, but the functional and regenerative. It's the game changer in any of the clinics that I work with, is somebody that's comfortable doing that. So if you believe you're next level and you're looking for starting in that 50, 60,000 range and could easily get to 6 figures, you just need that skill base. If not, it's completely fine. We say then, as that group, like we had 15 trainers at Rejuve. That second trainer, as long as they're good at nutrition or corrective exercise or a health coaching, as long as they're not, can maintain the packages and the clients, those are the second and third people that we hire, because most of these clinics aren't trying to hire this to have one person, because that's not a business model. They want to scale to, how do I help all my patients get in there and really have this lifestyle? So they need the next level health coaches that are just great coaches, but the director, the grower, the 6-figure type person, they got to have the networking, speaking, and sales experience. So that's the other opportunity. The fourth one is just referral relationships. You're your own business. You're only there, but you start by helping them. So I always have this philosophy as give, ask. That's why you heard of my free university, free books, free training sessions. When I first started, I went out in our community and offered every doctor in our community to train for 6 weeks for free with me. I had 3 doctors that said yes. They continue to send referrals to this day, because they got to trust me. They see I knew my business. They see I could get results. I got them results. Then they were comfortable enough to start sharing all their patients with us, because doctors worry about liability, malpractice. So if at the end of the day, you're not proven that you can safely encourage the patients, communicate back, give notes until they build that trust, you're just not going to get it. So training them for free or offering that was a huge way. So if you're solo, go partner with these doctors, offer your services for 6 weeks, gain the trust. Yes, 3 of them are maybe going to send you 1 or 2, but 1 or 2 of them that aren't entrepreneurial minded, that are functional or regenerative in nature, they'll open the floodgates for you if they trust you, love you, and know you get their patients' results. So those are 4 ways to join forces. I could go in depth on those. I'm trying to be concise and quick here. So hopefully that
does.
The fourth model was the one that I was excited, the affiliate relationship, because if you can track down a cash clinic, there's tons of opportunities to kind of convince, I guess, the doctor to give you a try. But like where I am, there's no real cash clinics, again, because it's just everything's free. But there's a doctor in a neighboring community who I've heard through the grapevine has a functional medicine approach, follows a similar dietary sort of belief that I do, has actually told his clients, oh, you should pay attention to your circadian biology and maybe go on a paleo diet. And so like my little brain lights up, because that's what I teach my clients. And I've reached out to this doctor, tried to say, hey, I think we're in alignment. Like, if you've got these clients who you're encouraging them to take on these behaviors, these diet and lifestyle behaviors, I coach to that. So what do you say? Like, send him my way. There's really nothing for you to lose. But I can't get the guy, I can't seem to incentivize the doctor to see. He's like, oh no, he's like, well, yeah, I told them what to do, and I'm assuming they're going to do it. I don't think he's necessarily following up with the fact that they're struggling. I feel like maybe, and not to sort of be pejorative to this doctor, but I feel like once he kind of kicks the client out and says, yeah, go eat a paleo diet and mind your circadian biology, he's not really following up or even maybe caring.
He's not.
So I can't get the guy excited to collaborate with me.
Correct.
You know?
So that's typical. And it's just like every doctor in the world for 50 years has said, go lose weight. If they're on the education, they go. So it's just a failed system. It comes to, you haven't built the know, like, and trust with that doctor yet. So it's like, you got to find the opportunity. Like I said, either offer to train him for 6 weeks or take his mother, his relative, his sister, his wife through your program. Maybe that's a book. Maybe it's what I always tell the patients is, take your patients. If you know he's an integrated doctor, send to him first. So I always, even when we're attaching, it's the give, ask strategy. I never go ask for sex on the first date. I'm always trying to essentially provide value. So I always say, you know, like chiropractors were our number one referral source to our regenerative practice. But I would have to say, I promise they're coming back to you. But now, if I believe that, and chiropractor is a part of our model, when a patient comes in and they say, we don't have chiropractor, send them a patient, give them a bone. And that's when the multiple referrals start coming, when we referred to them first. So you can't expect a doctor to ever refer to you if you haven't given to him first.
I was thinking though, like this idea about creating a mini course. Like I have a course that is a standalone metabolic therapy course that I enroll clients in, and it's a couple $100. It's sort of a downsell, lower ticket offering. But I could even offer that to the doctor and say, hey, you know what? When you get these clients coming in with metabolic dysfunction, just send them my way. I'll enroll them in my course. No questions asked. They can, and the next time they come in to get their blood panels done, and you'll see the improvements, maybe, in that kind of a way. So that's 100%. another.
That's much better. You're leveraging a give and giving. So let me give you an example. Corporate wellness and many health coaches out there, our community is how we built our business. In 2015, because we were doing stem cells and functional medicine, we were told to give it up or lose our insurance contracts. We just moved into our 28,000 square foot building. I said, Doc, we have to stop doing this. And he says, no, I can't go back to doing medicine I know does my patients harm instead of good. So that forced me to become even more aggressive, but giving, but just more about building community relationships. So we learned what they called to what we call synergistic businesses, corporate businesses, and medical referrals, and break those into 3 categories. So let's just say, for instance, I want to go to a synergistic businesses. We look at these like health food stores, clothing goods stores, supplement shops, nutrition stops, even these providers. We go and we say, hey, I run this health coaching business, and when I sign up my patients, they're always looking for the best places to eat, shop, and give. I would love if you could offer my patients a 5% or a 10% discount so I could send all of my patients here. So let me give you an example. As I went on I was always traveling when I was doing this, and I got no less than 100 vendors trying to sell us their services. And it's delete. We have our strategic plan, and we're busy and always know what our plan is. I would reach out to somebody if I needed it, of course. So one day I was sitting at the clinic and in my office, and I don't say yes to vendors ever. It's like, come buy us lunch, come educate us, and when we're looking. So it was up there, and the guy called the front desk and they said, somebody's here, JR, they want to send patients. I got up from my chair and I went and talked to the guy, and it went right back to my mind is, yes, that is the number one motivator for everybody is patience. So when you go into the business and say, I run this business, I would love to send all that patients here instead of you being the spammer. Now they're like, okay, you immediately have the managers or the owner's attention or follow back. So now we have our community impact flyer that has these 20 amazing businesses on there that are non-competing, where our clients now can go get all these amazing discounts. So now I go back 2 weeks later and say, thank you so much. Our patients, our clients absolutely love that they can go in this community and know where to get all their healthy foods, clothings, and materials. I would love to return the favor since you gave us such a generous gift and come educate your team. I have this little university / mini course that so many people don't know what healthy nutrition, they get misinformation out there. So this is what I give my client, but because you've helped us so much, I will come and do a couple different free lunch and learn. It's a little tricky to navigate the first time. So I will come teach your people how to navigate it. So if you see there, to the owner, I had 2 gives. Send them patients with my coupons. Number 2 is offer their trainers, and I know how to leverage it, saying I know sick time, productivity, unhealthy habits lead to, unproductive workforce or not an optimized workforce. But now when I'm speaking to the community or to the employees, same principle, 2 gives. I am sharing this lecture, and my model was every time I speak, I usually get 1 or 2 clients, but I wanted to up that. So it's like, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I have $200 gift cards in my package, so pass this around because I'm going to make sure to give you guys all access to our university here that has the meal plans, cookbooks, templates, so you don't ever have to get misinformation again, and you can learn how to eat healthy. But I'm also going to give away $200 gift cards to our program right here. So that way I'd always get 80% of the email list that I'm speaking to. I'm giving them access. And at the end, I said, if any of you are interested, I have opened up, because every time I speak, a few medical fitness test drives. So that is where they get a free consultation, a free evaluation, an actual session, and that's my opportunity to sell them. But I give value. Not everybody closes. So in every one of those scenarios, I'm about giving massive value. I always give before I ever ask, unless it's a referral and they just say, JR, I want to work with you. That's the only time I'm ever offering my services before I know I've put them in some sort of pipeline to seed my authority, or do all my autoresponders do all the selling without selling. So I don't want to sit down with people that aren't going to convert. I want to sit down with people that have already been warmed up, that are ready and active in their health. And then it's why I close 90+% of people I sit in front of, because they've already got the education and they're not sitting in front of me if they didn't like what I had to say at that standpoint.
Yes. Okay. That's awesome. Awesome advice that we've shared.
Yep.
And lots of guests have shared. That's the whole benefit of a content marketing strategy, whatever you want to call it. Seeding authority is how you put it, which I think is awesome.
Right.
By the time they get on the phone with you, they already know they want to work with you.
Right.
Yep.
It makes the whole enrollment process an actual enrollment process, and not this really just awkward, scary sales conversation. So you've referred to this term regenerative healthcare a couple times, and then the term functional. So those are 2 different things. Is that correct? Do you mind filling us in on the difference?
Please. And I did forget the 5th option that I want to add, giving the current situation.
Yeah.
Opportunity to collaborate with physicians. Is what we want to do with regen medicine is it's basically sports medicine. Just like functional medicine is basically primary care. So this is how I always want people to understand it. A lot of the surgeons or primary care doctors want to poo-poo everything else that they don't do, right? And that's why I love rugby and what I learned. I was a competitive athlete, and it was always beat the other team. They're not your friends, right? And that's why I fell in love with rugby, is when I played my first game, you wanted to beat the other team. But after the game, we were all shaking and giving high fives and hand blows and drinking together. And it was an amazing time, right? And then I recognized, wow, healthcare, it's all about, well, you're a chiropractor, or you're functional, or you're regen and everything. And they don't have that. It's like, hey, we're in the business of helping people. High five. And I've learned through my chronic Lyme disease, numerous surgeries, that it's a combination of physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, nutritional, internal, traumatic